Welcome to Sex Talk Radio, a podcast that explores kink and sex through candid and curious conversations. Join me and expert guests in navigating the depths of desire, unraveling taboos, and celebrating the diverse expressions of human sexuality. Today, I am here with Vanda, aka Vanda the Panda, aka Vanda the Blowjob Queen, who has been a Austin character for the past 15 years. She was known in Austin for several years as the girl dancing around in a panda suit going to shows and festivals. She's the founder of a workshop on how to give the best blowjobs ever called Blow Him Away 101. This is my favorite part. You may be on your knees, but you still have him by the balls. Love the tagline. Her goal is to empower anyone and everyone to suck their best dick and change the mindset around how a blowjob makes you feel. Vanda, okay, we'll jump into the 1,000 blowjobs and your fiance and the 1,000 blowjobs there as well. We'll just get into that as we start talking.
Let's do it.
Let's see. Actually, before I get into the blowjob reviews, I want to talk just about how we met. So Vanda is my neighbor. We live in the same apartment complex, and you were a actual super pivotal part of me deciding to do this podcast. I bought the domain a year ago. I've been sleeping on it, sitting on it, thinking about it. Wasn't sure if I wanted to be like out in this world and in this way. And there was this 24-hour period where like 3 big things happened where it was just like, okay, universe, like it's a fucking sign. And you were one of them. I went out to our dog park and was just chatting with you for the first time in depth. And you started talking about how you have taught a blowjob workshop in the past. And I was like, this is one of the fucking goddamn signs. Like, okay, I get it. I'll do the podcast. Because I was also like thinking of who could I have on and who could share stuff. So anyways, thank you for being a really important part of why this all started.
You're so welcome. It's this thing where you're like, I love talking about blowjobs, and sometimes I'm just, I know it's like, and sex, and like, it's, a lot of people aren't comfortable with that, but feeling your energy of just you.
I get excited.
You get, like, it was so instant when I was like just hanging around you and you're like, this is a dog park. Like, I don't know if people are really talking about blowjobs here. But I just, for some reason, was like, I'm going to tell this woman I teach a blowjob workshop. And here we are.
Yes. Yeah. It's, I do get excited. I mean, that's why I'm doing the podcast. Like, I just think it's fun to talk about, always have, and want to, empower people to feel comfortable in that. So I'd love to learn a bit more about you before we jump into blowjob stuff. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
A little bit about myself. Let's see. Yeah, I've been in Austin for 15 years. I currently got laid off for my full-time tech job. It was kind of hard, but like at the same time, I'm like, okay, let's really enjoy things. And like when you asked me to do this, I was like, hells yeah.
I feel like stuff's opening up for you. Maybe we'll get, a viral video with this outfit situation talking about blowjobs. But I mean, I'm obsessed with you, and I want to figure out how to catapult you into the world.
And I appreciate that. I've got living with my fiance. We're gonna get married in November. We live with our beautiful little Basenji dog, Xena. Xena and Jackson are besties. She's a doggy model. And I'm just kind of really at this point in my life where I'm just enjoying life. Like that idea. Tyler, my fiance, is always like, this is the one life we have to live. So why are we not doing the things that we fucking love to do?
Yeah.
I fucking love talking about blowjobs. I love talking about blowjobs. And I'm also a Legree instructor. I love the idea of helping people. I think that's my biggest thing. I think
that's connected to all of your whys.
Yeah, and it's really interesting that when people hear about like a blowjob workshop, they like giggle and laugh and like like what are we like grapefruiting or doing all that stuff? And I'm like, is it like old school? And I'm like, no, it actually is like it's a safe space to openly talk about all of us, about oral. Never in people's lives are you just openly talking about blowjobs. And here we are like in a space where a bunch of people can get together and like, hey, I've had this experience. And literally 3 other people will be like, yeah, me too.
And it is still giggly. Like I even find myself when you're talking about it now, I'm like, but it's breaking down those things and doing something enough, talking about something enough where it's comfortable. I mean, even for me, like I was shaking. I was so nervous the first podcast.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh my God, I'm talking about sex and people are going to see it. Like, it takes that. So especially if you're working or teaching a group of women, because I know you've done some like bachelorette parties and stuff here, you probably get a lot of that reaction or giggles. But at the core, we are all like really curious about that. Maybe it's on the down low. Maybe we're Googling it. Maybe we're just talking to our best friend about it. But like, and not just with oral, just sex in general. You know, we are so curious about it, and we're all consuming it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like no one really teaches you these things, or like what you're watching porn and you're like.
And then you try to replicate that.
And you try to replicate. Yeah. And then it's just, I think there's just so much miscommunication, like assumptions of like what sex or what blowjobs should look like or be like or feel like. And I'm like, no, like, y'all, let's all talk about it. Like it's great because I think for me, it's that my personality of just being like, I hopefully make people feel comfortable. It's not,
you do.
It's not the idea that I'm like this insane, like, sex dominatrix or anything like that, which I very much applaud. I like think that's amazing work, but I'm just a regular panda girl that loves sucking dick.
I don't think there's a whole lot regular about you, but, you know.
But yeah.
So tell me about like your journey with sex and sensuality, and I'd love to know more about where you grew up and all of that.
Yeah.
Take me back.
Literally, I probably started watching porn when I was 11, 12. Like I had two older brothers and they downloaded stuff on a computer and I was like, And so it was
the
curiosity was peaked very early on.
Yeah.
But I grew up a first generation American. Like I grew up with very strict Asian parents.
Okay.
And I also grew up in white suburbia where I was one. And so I never saw myself as beautiful or anything like that. It was this thing, but I looked at sex and I was like,
Same.
it was not only porn, but erotic literature. Oh, literotica.com. That was my jam.
Okay.
Literotica.
Also when you were a teenager?
Also, when I was a teenager, and it was this thing where I would look up all these stories and I'd print them out in the middle of the night, and I'd have to put a pillow over the printer so my parents wouldn't hear it. And I would print out like these like 50 pages of this like erotic story, and then I'd staple it and hide them underneath my mattress.
So determined.
I was so determined, and
I'm curious.
So curious, and then I eventually got into chat rooms.
That was the first time I saw dick. Yep.
I was very into the chat rooms, but this was
I'm 18.
Yeah, I was so worried because you see those Dateline of like predators and things like that. So I was like, I'm gonna be smart and I'm gonna chat with guys in the UK and so
nobody can come find me.
Yeah, so I would do Lycos UK chat, and I would just like chat, and I had so much confidence in these chat rooms, did not have the confidence outside. Like it was this really weird thing, and then like ended up like having a really nice connection with like two guys in England, and ended up losing my virginity to these two guys, and it was a crazy story.
How old were you?
I was 18. I was 18, so I had just
we're legal.
I had just graduated high school and went on like kind of our senior trip. Decided to be like, oh yeah, let's stop in London on the way back, and arranged it with the first guy, Anthony. He lived in like Nottingham, and so he had to take a train down to London. Got like a kind of a cheap hotel room, and this guy, was my first kiss, my first blowjob, my first sex, first anal. We did it all in one afternoon. All one afternoon.
Was he nice?
He was the night.
Okay.
It was the best experience ever. Like I think about that, and it was like he made me feel so comfortable, and it was like I wanted to do all of these things.
And he was kind of teaching. Like,
yeah,
in a way,
he was teaching, and like we had video chatted so much leading up to that
super comfortable.
I felt super comfortable with him, and he kept asking for my consent, and I'm like, yes. Like this was back in
such a good first experience. Everyone has that.
This was back in 2008. So it's just like for him to just be so, and I think
Before
about my
consent was that.
Yeah, like
Literally.
And like literally he was amazing. It was so great. And then it was so funny because then the second guy, I was leaving the next day, and we were staying with my cousin's girlfriend at the time out very West London. Like couldn't even call it London anymore. And I was like, I'm leaving in the morning. Sorry, like I wish we could have met up sorry we didn't meet up. He ended up taking a night bus, 3 hours to this spot in kind of very west of London. And we ended up, he's like, I just want to see you. Because I was like, you can't, like, I'm staying on a couch. There's no way we're going to have any hanky-panky.
Yeah.
And so we meet up. It's great. Like, we walk around. It's like maybe 5 a.m. I'm like, I'm going to get on a plane back to Houston, like, in like 5 hours. So we're just walking around and still no one's up. And then we just start making out. And then we go into the stairwell of my cousin's girlfriend's apartment. And then we just end up having sex there. And that is literally 8 hours after I had my very first time with Anthony is then I had the second time with this fella. And yeah, we just got it on the stairwell. And I rode him. I let him put it in my butt. It was all of these crazy things. And then he left. And I remember getting on that plane back to Houston, sitting in my plane seat and being like, I used to be a virgin. And I'm now not.
Did you feel empowered?
I felt so empowered.
Yeah.
I felt like, okay,
confident.
I felt confident and that I'm like, oh, like I had to, and I was like, I thought I was pretty good. And they were very communicating with me and like, they were like wonderful, all the things. But then it was when I got back to Texas, it was all of a sudden, I am not that confident anymore. I felt.
Yeah, you mentioned that earlier in your teenage years and childhood.
Teenage years. And so came to UT as an undergrad. And still, it's this weird thing where I'm like, I don't feel pretty. I'm not blonde, blue eye. I remember like going to a frat party and being like, I stick out so much here. Like no one's interested in me.
Sure.
And so freshman year, one of my RAs was like, oh, like, have you ever heard of Craigslist casual encounters? And I was like, what? And I was like, oh, okay. And so here I am in my all-girls dorm on campus, and I'm looking up casual.
It's like the second run.
This was the second run. And so, and can I tell you, I would say from 2008 to probably, 2008 all the way to like 2011, I was using Craigslist or until whatever it got kicked off because people kept getting murdered. But that's how I like discovered sex or how I got experience, how I would always, my posts would be cute college BBW looking for a cute, fun guy to help her learn about sex. And I got a lot of responses.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Lots of responses. And yeah, it was just, it was really interesting, like having those experiences. And because it's still like, I wasn't dating. I was like, I don't think I ever was like, went on a date until like 2011 is like when I went on my first date.
Do you feel like you got super comfortable in that routine? Because that's something I realized with myself last year when I first started exploring this and like having a bunch of sex off of like Field. It was kind of like, I don't want to say I got too comfortable, but I got very comfortable with casual sex that it feels sometimes more complex to navigate, just like taking it slow and going on dates. And like, I got very
100%.
Yeah.
Like I felt it was weird if I like after their first date, we didn't have sex.
Sure.
Like it was that weird, like that's kind of what I was like kind of programmed.
It's some reconditioning to really slow it down.
Yeah, it really was. You're just kind of like, because then you get in your head being like, am I not pretty enough? Like, why didn't you want to have sex with me like tonight or stuff like that? And you can put yourself down so much in kind of that cycle. And so it definitely took some time to slow it down and be like, okay, like, is this really what I want? Like, I am having fun and like, it is like, I am having fun, but at the same time, am I just kidding myself and really wanting more?
And we were talking about this just on the last podcast about like outsourcing validation and like the difference between pleasure for ourselves versus finding it from other people or from men. And I think that can be a journey as well. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, 100%. Like it was a journey of like kind of what I liked about sex and being comfortable enough to be like, okay, this is what I like about sex.
Right.
And it was, guys would always want to eat me out. Like I'm like, I don't like it.
Yeah, and then getting the practice of sharing that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's similar.
It's really, because it's like, oh, like you're conditioned. Like I would hear my girlfriends being like, oh, so-and-so went down on me for hours.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, like that doesn't seem nice to me. And kind of realizing, okay, what are the parts of sex that I really enjoy?
Yes.
And how can
using your voice for those.
Using your voice. How can I communicate that? And I'm like, and I realized, like, kind of with all my casual encounters experience, meeting guys on dating apps, like I just really enjoy sucking dick. Like it's so funny because I would have girlfriends be like, oh, like, don't you just feel like so subservient when you do that? I'm like, no, I feel empowered. When I am sucking a dick and I'm like, this guy is letting me put the most important part of his body in my mouth, with all my teeth, like, damn.
I've been realizing that I like the power, because I think I'm a little more switchy than I thought. And I'm realizing that I like kind of the power of it and like providing so much pleasure to where like they're almost not in control. Like I think I kind of like the almost reverse power dynamic. I don't know what it is, but like the title of your thing says, just because you're on your knees.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, and like that's exactly it. Like I'm such a like sub type when it comes to like actual sex. Like I love to be dominated. I love to be thrown around. I love to get spanked, all this stuff. But like there is just something to say when I'm like on my knees and I'm like looking up at a guy and being like, you're about to go on for a hell of a ride. So.
Okay, speaking of that, eye contact. I want to talk to you about that. I guess we're just jumping into blowjobs now. I want to talk to you about that because, okay, first of all, how did you collect these reviews? Because I have in front of me dozens of reviews of blowjobs, and let me just give a couple examples because it's fucking hilarious. Best blowjob I've ever had. Enthusiastic with deep throating and lots of good eye contact and communication. Skill level, very high. Understands what a man wants. Would get blown again. Jerry from Austin. And they continue. 10 out of 10 ran out of cum in 2 days. Timo from Switzerland. So have you ever done sex work? Like, if you're comfortable talking about that, we also don't have to go there if you're not comfortable, but I'm curious if any of that is related to this.
I honestly, it's like, I've never done sex work, but I have been offered money for like my videos, I've taken, but no, never. And it's so funny because guys have offered before, but this is the thing, like, I just love it. I love it. And so if it's like a guy that I'm like into, I'm like, yeah, I want to like rock your world type thing. And so,
totally.
But I'm like, there's nothing wrong with it. Like, also I was once flown up to London and basically to be this guy's companion or whatever. He's like, oh, I just really need emotional support for these like next 2 weeks while I'm like doing this conference. And I was like, okay, like let's be real. Like you just want blowjobs, which is fine. Totally fine. Like you can be real.
I think there's an
about
emotional support element to all of that as well. Like companionship.
Yeah, companionship. But then it like he had kind of like a harem situation where there was like 2 other women and so but it was I was like, well, you're gonna buy me a trip to London? Yeah, let's go.
London, the spot where all horny things happen for you.
So up until meeting my fiance, accents was like my thing. And so if you see most of those reviews are international men. Like that was what got me going.
So how would you ask for a review and what would you tell them you're going to use it for?
And so actually when I figured out I wanted to do this workshop, I was like, oh, I still have all their numbers, like WhatsApp kind of thing. And so, using WhatsApp super easy and it would be the name plus an emoji to indicate which app I met them on. Bumble, Fire for Tinder, Field. What did I use for Field? I forgot what I used for Field. And then like Hinge, I would do a door. And so like that's how I like. Oh, and then there was Coffee Meets Bagel. I had a little bagel for that person. And so I actually created a type form. And I sent them the link to the type form, and I was like, "Hey, I want you to." I was also getting their responses of what are their top 3 things that they most love from a blowjob. Like, what are the top 3 things?
I would be curious to see that.
And so that's part of the workshop. Is like there's graphs, there's all the things.
Wow.
And so I was able. I surveyed. I sent maybe like 150 guys, something like that. And then for the reviews, I was just like, hey, like if you remember the blowjob or whatever, want to give me a blowjob.
Oh,
review.
they remember.
And so like that was very, I like some of those I will still get texts to this day from men that I've given blowjobs to and like, hey, you still in Austin? Like, and I'm like, yeah, but I'm
wifed up, honey.
I'm wifed up right now.
Blowjobs for one person. So yeah, there's definitely like some consistent themes here of the favorites. I'm assuming they like match up with your graphs and stuff a little bit. Eye contact, hand coordination. I think, and I don't know how many other people that are listening or watching struggle with eye contact like in general, but for me, it's a stretch. I've been working on it like the last year. Just eye contact in general feels very vulnerable for me. And because I got in the flow and the habit of having so much casual sex on field in the last year, that for me, that feels really vulnerable and intimate, especially with a blowjob.
Yeah.
So I'm curious if you have any advice for like getting over that, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it's really interesting because it's for me, it is just so like
it's easy for you.
It's easy for me to just be like, but I understand like women would bring that up all the time in the workshop and be like, okay, like how do you not feel like it's very intimate. And I've kind of guided them in the fact of like, hey, maybe like just give up little looks and then back down. Practice. That's the thing. And it also like you said, like intimacy levels. If this is a person, if this is a person that you see, you're like, oh wow, like this is a person that I'm feeling really connected with. Then give that eye contact. But it's you're teetering on, is this awkward? And I'm like staring at this, or is it like that? And then again, we talked about this, I think earlier this week about communication. Like some guys not into it. Like not into the eye contact at all. Like
I feel like a lot are.
A lot are though. I was gonna say
come look at me, but it's like I think it depends on the comfort level.
Depends on the comfort level. Depends obviously the angle. Like it's like if you're having your head on the edge of the bed and you're looking up like that, that's a weird like look up at me.
Do you think it's enjoyable because porn is conditioned that way? I feel like it's a lot of like that angle of the filming.
I think it is. It's that idea.
Not bad, but.
Like not necessarily that it's bad, but I think that is 100% like that can like those POVs like that's guys are just jacking off to those POVs and so they're just like and so that wide-eyed kind of innocence, I think is what really turns a lot of men on, or maybe they just think they should like that.
Right. There's always stuff to unpack there. I feel like with porn, with what do we actually really like and what's just there's like almost a normal flow of male female porn.
But with the eye contact, if sometimes it's like weird, you're sucking on a dick, you're holding a dick, you're doing all the things at the same time. So sometimes I like to think about, okay, I take the dick out of my mouth, give a little look, and then a little smirk, and then just go back into it.
Little break, little practice.
A little practice, and just like stroking, looking. But then when I'm full into sucking a dick, I'm just all about it. I'm like ready to go, and it's great.
I do too. I really enjoy it. I don't know the percentage of women that do. But I also like being with new partners who I know haven't had much of that in the past. And it's like extra fun to be the one that rocks the world. And I get a lot of good feedback too, but I'm excited to expand my skills.
No, that's exactly it. And that was the big reason why I was like, this workshop needs to happen, because these men would be like, that was the best blowjob I've ever got.
You kept getting that.
You kept getting that. And you're like, okay, like what are other women not doing then? Like, because for me, it's like second nature now.
And also responding to what you can tell they like based on their body language and movements and what makes them come. Like it's
exactly. And so they would tell me these things, and then I was like, oh well, then do you tell that to the women that? And they're like, no. No, of course not. Like, no, of course not. Like, I'm just happy that they're down, like, happy that they're gonna like have sex with me. And so like they don't tell them. And so then it's like these people are then going around thinking they're like, I'm amazing at blowjobs and things like this. And it's like, like no one's ever like
I'll tell a guy blowjob related and sex related, like tell me what you like as we're doing it.
That's amazing.
That's all you have to do.
That's amazing.
Because and something I've said before is like I have a list of all of my kinks and desires and my likes in my phone. So if I'm talking with somebody, sexting with somebody, I'll literally send it to them. Men are so good at following rules and instructions. I'm telling you, if you write down a list and send it to them ahead of time, the amount of times I've been like so surprised that they're doing all of the things in my list. Like they just want to be good boys too.
Yeah.
They just wanna,
yeah. And
know.
honestly, I think men love like that guideline.
Yes.
The guideline, like having some sort of like, cause
She likes, and guys also really want to be, in general, very careful about consent and not doing anything that makes a woman uncomfortable. So in general, they actually hold back with a lot of things.
Yeah.
If you're just giving them, I like all of these things, and also tell me what you like as we're doing it.
Yeah.
I know
really it's magic. It's magic. Yeah, like communication works both ways.
Yeah.
And so I think that's so important into having good sex.
Yeah. What was the transition like for you going from being single to now having a fiance? Or were there other long-term partnerships in this?
There was one other long-term partnership, but I wouldn't say like it was interesting. I kind of always knew like it would eventually end. So it was transitioning from being like this wild and single woman to like all of a sudden like being wifed up. I absolutely love it. It's really crazy. It's this thing, and it's my fiance would sometimes, I think early on in a relationship, had a little bit of insecurities of like, does she miss it? Does she miss it? Because I would still openly talk about it and talk about like all the things I've done like leading up to like meeting Tyler. And I'm so proud of him for him just being like, hey, like that doesn't necessarily make me feel good because it seems like you miss it. And I'm like, that's further from the truth.
Right. You like talking about it and.
Yeah, exactly. And he's just, and I'm so insanely happy. Like it's crazy. Like you
guys are hotties.
Yeah, like we like finding that person, and I've like never ever had any desire like to be with anyone else but him, and like for us to explore all these like sexual new adventures together, because he is also like very open to that. But like I absolutely like to have that type of partner, and for also having a partner that doesn't judge you for your past. Like
it's beautiful.
Can I just like the other day he was telling me about his friend who was like really upset because the woman he's dating had said something about like how she's like slept with 50 guys or something like this. And he's like, and Tyler goes like, did she do that when you were together? And he's like, no, like before we met, but like that's a lot. And he was just like, well,
there's so much to break down there with the patriarchy.
Really,
why is there anything wrong with a lot?
Why is
it's gonna be great in bed?
Yeah, and like it's great. And Tyler's mindset was like, out of all of those guys that you've been with, you've chosen me as the one. And so he's shifted his mindset.
I love that perspective.
Yeah, and he was like, like I would rather be with a woman who's gone out and experienced life, and then is like, this is like I want to spend the rest of my life with you, rather than like kind of wondering like
it can get problematic when you settle down and then you start wondering what it's like to experience life.
Exactly. And I've been very fortunate enough to experience some crazy things in my life. Like some crazy fucking like sex parties, sex clubs, a bunch of stuff. But it really like I love being with my fiance. Like it's so amazing.
That's so sweet.
And I love sucking his dick. It's
and there's so many layers that you can explore with somebody when there's trust and safety. So I've had a lot of like kind of random hookups, one night stands, and you know, there's plenty of vetting that happens there, but you're still on edge. You're still aware. You're not like, for me, I'm not really like fully going into subspace or like getting restrained or anything. Like I'm being careful.
Yeah.
Because I don't know the person super well. And so, you know, it's cool because you've had so many sexual experiences and explorations, but then you just get to keep going deeper with the same person.
Yeah.
There's a lot that can be uncovered there.
Oh, for sure. We're like, we've met a few couples on field. We like went to that shrine part, like that, thanks to you. And like, it was great to like just witness that and like be a part of, and like really getting to explore and setting our boundaries. Cause we are very much like, we haven't like been intimate with another couple, but like we're totally up for it. But we're like, okay, what are our boundaries? Like, we want same room, like all this stuff, like
together,
together, and just like that's part of that experience, and and so
and nothing even has to happen. Like going somewhere like shrine, for me, it was just really great people watching. But it's like, yeah, you get to have those conversations in a relationship of
Yeah. Where you're
yeah.
feeling
What
safe
are
and
our
secure.
what are our rules?
Yeah.
here? Yeah.
You're feeling safe and secure. You're like, this is my person. Whatever I say, whatever he says, like, we're not going to judge each other. And then we're going to respect each other's decision. And then we're going to move forward.
I love that.
Yeah.
Couple goals. I'm excited because whatever my next relationship is, it's like I've gone through, I mean, in my last relationship, I truly like thought I was asexual. I was like trying to find a therapist to talk about it with, but there was a disconnect in our relationship, and jumping like headfirst into all of this, I'm just excited to explore it with a longer term partner. Calling that shit in.
Yeah. We're manifesting things this year.
Yes, girl.
I love it.
So you mentioned BBW
Yeah.
and your Craigslist ads. And you've gone through like a pretty substantial weight loss journey and transformation. And I would love for you to share that and how that's been, I don't know, for your sexuality and your journey. And
Yeah. Can I
all
tell
of
you?
that.
Yeah. Like being BB. So I, at my heaviest weight, probably 8 years ago, I was over 300 pounds.
Wow.
It was this thing where I was like, okay, well, only guys who are interested in big girls, like that's my.
I'm going to find them so that I feel.
Yeah, I feel comfortable. Like,
Yep.
because can I tell you, there had
There's a
been-
lot of them.
Yeah, there's a lot of, and then like, but
Which is great.
it's great, it's amazing, and but it was so interesting when I had started to lose weight, but I kept, because I still thought I looked like the pictures in my Tinder.
Sure.
So like I would
Body dysmorphia.
yeah, and then met up with a guy once, and he literally was like, "Oh, you're not as big as I thought you were, so I'm gonna leave."
Whoa.
Yeah, and you're like, "Oh shit, okay, oh fuck." Like and like obviously I've gotten the opposite, where like, "Oh, you're way bigger than I thought you were. Sorry." Like.
And been rejected in real time.
Yes.
Oh,
I one time casual encounters once got like, I thought I sent pictures that looked like me, and it literally, he came over, sat on my bed, and he was like, "Oh," like, and like, fuck me, that was like a tough like
That's
thing.
brutal.
Like it is, because you're just like, wow, because you're taught that all guys want is sex, and here you are offering sex to this man, and he doesn't even want it. Like, it was really, I went through a lot of shit, and
Sure.
but yeah, 8 years ago, I was at my heaviest weight. Honestly, I'd kind of given up on like ever being healthy ever. I thought I was too far gone.
Wow.
I had already.
At what age? Young.
I was 26, 25.
Yeah.
So I was 25 years old. Here I am, 25 years old, thinking this is just the way my life is going to be for the rest of my life.
Wow.
I had a severe sleep apnea. I had to sleep with a CPAP machine because they were like,
Wow.
the doctors were like, you will die in the middle of the night, because usually people with sleep apnea will wake themselves up because they lack of oxygen. I wasn't waking up when I did these sleep studies, and they were very concerned about this. And then, but again, like that didn't motivate me to like lose weight or anything like that. It was when I got the news my dad had stage 4 colon cancer. And it was this thing over the last maybe kind of 3 to 4 years prior, like is when my weight gain really went up. And I was super, super embarrassed to go home. Like I avoided seeing my family. I avoided seeing my parents for like, and in my head I was like, hopefully enough time has passed that they don't notice how big I've gotten. Like, and so I would only see them like maybe once or twice a year. And they live like 2 hours driving. Yeah. And they'd always be like, "Can we come up and see you?" And I'm like, "No, like, I don't want you to see me like this. Like, I don't." And for my dad, it was really tough because he trained me growing up. I played soccer, played tennis, I did golf. Like, I did all the sports my dad did. And I was so fit, I was so healthy. And then I ended up getting a knee injury and having surgery. And then from that moment of that, I just kind of gave up in being active anymore, trying to be healthy, and I just kind of gave in to all like the pleasures that like that life has to give. Like food, like you come to college and you're talking about like the freshman like 15.
Yes.
I was like freshman 50, and like it was this really, and it was
comforting.
It's very
comforting.
It's very comforting, and yeah, and so you're just, I was there and I getting the news of that from my dad, and I was like, fuck. And here I am, like in Asian cultures, it's like this big thing where the kids take care of the parents. Like the parents shouldn't be worrying about the kids at a certain age. And you're
Sure.
like, and then all of a sudden I'm like, holy shit, like, I need my dad to see me healthy before he dies, because
Wow.
because they were basically like, he's stubborn old Asian man, never went to the doctor. Like the doctors were like, man, you must have been living in pain for a long time to be at stage 4 colon cancer, and they at the time gave him 6 months to live, and so never in my life had I ever been motivated before to lose weight, but it was that moment where I was
Wow.
like, I need to make a change. I need to do this one last thing for my dad
Yeah.
before he passes away. I need him to see that I'm going to get healthy for him, that I'm going to be able to take care of my mom, that he
Yeah.
doesn't have to worry about me, because there's so many other things that he has to worry about. But to worry about me like that, I shouldn't put that on him. And so that's what
Wow.
motivated me to kind of change my life around it. Really, like it's this weird bittersweet thing that you're like,
Right.
damn, like
Yeah.
if my dad never would have started dying, who knows where I would have been right now. Like, yeah, like
Wow.
I was so prepared to be like, the idea of ever shopping in regular stores for clothing, I gave up on that. I was buying all my clothes online. I didn't even want to go into a store and try something on, knowing that it's not going to fit me, knowing that the biggest size that I have will still not fit me. And I was just like, and like, having to travel with a seatbelt extension, knowing that I was probably going to get hypertension, diabetes, all of these things. And it was scary to think that, like, fuck, at 25 years old, I was so ready to give up on life.
Right. I've watched a lot of My 600-Pound Life, and
Yeah.
that's like there's a very like consistent story of like at such a young age, I was ready to just give up, or death sentence next 5 to 10 years. And not saying that happens to
Yeah.
everyone at that weight or any weight. Just there's a giving up, and there's
There's a lack of hope. There's a
Yeah.
lack of hope. I would kid myself like with how big I was, but I would do this thing anytime I go in a store or restaurant, I'd survey it and I'd look at the one person that was bigger than me and tell myself, oh well, at least I'm not that big, so I'm
Yeah.
still good. And
it's like probably a constant voice,
yeah, it's constant voice and, like,
comparing,
narrating, trying to justify certain things. And
Yeah.
I don't know, when you like, and it's hard because like people will always ask me like, oh, like, how'd you do it? And I'm like, honestly, like my dad was dying. And like, that was the motivation that I
Well,
had.
it's like a really beautiful and sad like balance of that never would have happened if that hadn't happened, and you never would have, who knows what would have happened to your health. And that's really powerful.
Yeah. I talk with my mom. Like, my mom is the best mom.
I've seen her on Instagram. She's a vibe.
She's a vibe.
We got to get her famous.
Wait until I go to Thailand next month. She's gonna be all over my Instagram. But damn, she's an amazing woman, and we talk about my dad every time we talk, and she tells me that like, because like part of me is always like, man, I wish he could see me now. Like I wish he could see me now. I wish he could see me with Tyler. Wish he could see that I'm like a fitness instructor. Like,
Yeah.
like never in a million years did I think that this is where my life would
Yeah.
be. Like,
Well, I bet he saw enough in those months
yeah,
of your determination and trusted you enough to know that you'd get
Yeah.
wherever you want to go.
yeah. They gave him 6 months. They ended up living like a few more years. And I was like,
Oh my God.
I was like, you really, but it was amazing because
He did see you transform your life then.
He did
Yeah.
see me transform my life. And it was this thing where he loved to run. And I
Mm.
remember going home kind of one weekend because he had, even when he was doing chemo, like he'd go and run like 5 miles a day. Like this guy is a beast.
Gosh, that's where you get all this.
Yeah,
energy.
and I just remember we went to a park where we used to run when I was younger, and we just ran together. I did a jog, and I literally like broke down. Like, and he's just the most like, I don't know if my dad ever said he loved me. Like, that's the type of like relationship, like this just very disciplined old.
You bond
Asian
in
man.
other ways.
We
Like, we
bonded.
went on a run.
We went on a run. Like, and I knew how much that meant to him, and like,
Sure.
and that was the thing. Like, he would never tell me directly, but he would tell my mom. My mom would then tell me, and it was just like this
Yeah.
beautiful thing that like I even though my dad never said he loved me, like I knew he loved me to his core that I was his everything.
Yeah.
And so to be able to give him that peace of mind that, hey, Dad, like, you don't have to pass away without like knowing that
worry.
This can be one less worry, and you can go off peacefully. So
That's beautiful. Wow. How did your relationship with your body and sex change, and like as you dropped all that weight so quickly?
Yeah.
And had to kind of navigate the world.
It was a lot of like what you were saying earlier, body dysmorphia. Like I look at myself in the mirror and be like, I look exactly the same. Like, what are guys saying that I look thinner? Like I don't see it. And
did you still feel comfortable with the sexuality, or was there a shift because you were no longer in that box of like, I can't say I'm a BBW and this is my type and this is what I want?
There was definitely a transition period of like, okay, what do I say that I am now? And I definitely...
And like, why do you have to say there's anything?
Yeah, why do I have to say there's anything? And because it's like... in my mind, I kept telling myself, am I catfishing guys? Like, and you're kind of like trying to navigate where that is. And, but yeah, like sexuality wise, like I still was very much like a very active.
She was getting it.
I was still getting it. I was still getting it. And can I tell you, the guys who wouldn't give me the time of day when I was a bigger girl. All of a sudden, hey, like you look really awesome now. Like we should grab a drink. And I'm like, let's, oh, okay. I see what you're doing. I 100% see what you're doing. Like, even...
It's hard. That's probably hard to experience on some level. Like, there was only my physical appearance when you think of me.
Yeah, and that was like, and I really prided myself. I'm like, I'm a fun lady. Like, I'm a character. Like, I can talk about any topic and anything. And so, like, the fact that was the factor in some men's thoughts about like, oh, well, I can't date this woman, but I can have sex with her in secret. And you're like, oh, okay.
Being a secret, yeah.
Yeah, being secret. Like even now, like I get messages from guys all the time being like, oh wow, you're looking really good. And I'm like, I'm wifed up. Like
ship has sailed.
Ship has sailed. And like
and also fuck you.
Like even when I first started dating Tyler, I look at pictures of us and I was maybe like 50, 60 pounds heavier than I am now. And he was like, you were such a fun lady. Like, I didn't see you as your weight or anything, like that you were big. Like, I just knew that I had so much fun with you that's why. And like, yeah, and he was also a little bit thicker too. And it's great because like people talk about like getting in relationships and all of a sudden you get that comfort zone. And we're like, oh, okay, like and I'm like,
you guys got together and
we've gotten together and I'm like, oh God, we're like the hottest we've ever been. Like this is amazing. And we just constantly push each other and like keep each other accountable. I think that was a big thing. But I was definitely getting more into my feminine side though when I started losing the weight. Like I started getting into a lot more sexier dancing. Like I felt that confident. Like I always loved hip hop dancing and things like that where I'm wearing baggy clothes. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, like, okay, like I can maybe like twerk. I can maybe, can I do pole? Can I do chair dancing? And then ended up loving that, getting really into like chair and pole dancing and just floor fucking. That's
oh my gosh.
That's
my other guest was gonna do that on the podcast.
That's floor fucking. Yeah, it's amazing.
It's really good for the booty.
Yeah, there's an amazing studio here in Austin called Minx and Muse. It's like half dance studio, half witch coven, but they're
as we do in Austin.
The people who run that studio are amazing and they support you. And like through my journey there, the owner Crimson, she was the one who encouraged me to do this blowjob workshop. Without Crimson, no blow 'em away 101 would have ever happened. That is where I did my very first one the day after my 30th birthday.
Hell yes.
On September 13th. It was a Friday the 13th.
Oh, love that.
And it was
love the fall time.
Yeah, love a fall time blowjob class. And it was amazing. And she's always just been so supportive and encouraging. And like everyone that goes to the studio is also encouraging. And it's just the great being around that energy.
The entrepreneur in me right now is mapping out a business model of like a high ticket package that you could sell all the fucking bachelorettes here of like all of those things. But like people love an agenda. So like pole, floor fucking, blowjob,
I know.
like twerking.
I also want to get Tyler involved. So Tyler is he's a nude model for Artful Bachelorette. If you ever heard of Artful Bachelorette,
okay.
It's where they have an art teacher and then basically a nude model, and then they bring the sketch pads, charcoal, and everybody just sketches this nude model for an hour as he does all these different poses. And
oh my God,
Tyler loves it.
Anyways, you know I want to build your business.
Yeah,
Make you famous. I got ideas because, anyways, Austin's the bachelorette capital of the world.
It really is. I know. I love teaching. I teach pole and chair dancing to bachelorette parties at Minx and Muse, and it's such a vibe. And I'd love to incorporate blowjobs and
I love thinking about all of the bachelorette parties that I see walking around here. They're wearing the same thing. They're like innocent. Sadly, maybe getting married too young. They're 23, 24. They've got their little cowgirl hat on. Woo! But I like that they are curious and feel empowered with their best girlfriends to learn about pleasure and learn about blowjobs.
Yeah.
And like we were talking about earlier, I think everyone wants to, and everyone wants to give their partner pleasure. And yeah.
It is. It's really interesting. You were so spot on about those.
It's a specific group walking around Austin.
Yeah, they
got their shorts.
Yeah, I'll say a lot of the pole dancing classes I do are these younger girls, and I'm like, oh, I always love to do an icebreaker. I'm like, give me your name, where you're from, and who would you sexy dance for? And they're just my boyfriend, my husband, and I'm like. Okay. I'm like, you can pick anyone. I'm letting you pick anyone in the world. I won't tell. But you can sexy dance on any person, men or women, whatever, who it may be. And you're gonna. I'm like, it's sweet, but at the same time, but their ears always perk up when I tell them I'm a blowjob instructor.
Yes, the ears perk up. I mean, all of this really started for me when I was trimming pot through college, and I would just sit in the little room trimming weed and listen to Dan Savage. Have you heard of Dan Savage?
No.
All the time. He was he had a sex column in a newspaper. I'm not going to give him a good intro right now, but he's amazing.
Yeah.
He was the first sex podcaster, and he'd have people call in, he'd give advice. And I was it was kind of that secretive thing. I would always be listening, but the ears would always perk up. And honestly, it's taken until this year for me to get comfortable, bringing up sex in a random conversation. But what I'm noticing, and you've probably noticed this too, doesn't matter who the fuck it is. If I even tiptoe into I have a sex podcast, it's immediate excitement, curiosity, and they want to tell me their sex lives. I've been getting DMs of people's sex lives, which I'm okay with, but truly people want to talk about it.
People want to talk about it. The amount of people I've told at Nexus that you have a sex podcast.
You're telling people?
I'm saying I was I walked out of our.
Do I want to fuck in our building?
I walked out of our apartment complex dressed like this, and people are like, "Where are you going?" And I'm like, "I'm gonna go be on our neighbor's sex podcast right now." And you see that instantly.
Yes, it's instant. I want to talk about sex with you.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's there's probably so much that's built up in people.
Yes.
And even
you just give them the permission when you mention it,
Even with your closest friends, you don't feel sometimes you don't feel that comfort level. And I'm you want to talk about sex with me? Let's go.
All right. To wrap up, let's get some blowjob tips.
Okay.
The world wants to know. So walk us through the workshop in a mini version, I suppose.
Yeah, mini version. So basically do a fun intro, and then I then go into what my credentials are, because it's not like I wanted to go get a degree.
Oh, your blowjob credentials?
Yeah, my blowjob credentials.
Let me read your reviews.
Because I think that was the biggest thing was
I don't think anybody needs fucking qualifications.
I don't know.
If a girl says you're good at sucking dick and you're going to teach a workshop on it, I would believe.
That. Well, but that was a voice in my head being I can't let people pay money and don't think I'm good at this. And so that's where the reviews come in. And then we usually break up. I have everyone break them to groups, and I ask these women to work together, or men and women work together, and come up with a list of the 5 things they think guys want most out of it.
Okay, wait, let's do it.
Okay,
let's do it with me.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the question.
Yeah.
5 things they want the most.
Yeah.
A tight-ish grip.
Yeah.
Eye contact.
Yeah.
Mostly nurturing the tip is the only word I could think of. 3, balls touching. And I don't know.
All right.
All right.
So we've got it's eye contact. It is hand and
Wait, you're telling me the actual.
Yeah, I'm telling you the actual ones. But those are very good. Like those were
hand.
Yes.
And mouth coordination.
Okay. Oh.
But maybe I stole that a little bit from you.
Yeah. And so we've got the eye contact, which is definitely
number one.
No, number one. Number one is it was a tie. It was hand incorporation and lubrication. The mouth. The amount of times I've heard somebody say they got a dry ass blowjob or like felt like that Indian burn or whatever. Like you do it like to your wrist.
These are the things, like, this is why I want the podcast, is because there needs to be communication about these things.
Yes,
if your dick hurts, all she wants to do is please you.
Yeah,
let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it. We've got eye contact. Deep throating was up there as well. And then, oh my gosh, I'm trying to, it's been a while since I've taught the workshop, because I always just think, and I have a slew of funny gifts that go with each one,
gosh.
but it's, hand incorporation, lubrication, eye contact, deep throating. Oh, and then what was up there was dirty talk.
Oh, while it's going down.
Yeah. While it's going
Take a little
down.
break. Talk
Take a
about
little
some
bit.
stuff.
Talk about some stuff. Say a little bit of dirty things. I love how hard your cock is getting in my mouth right now, or doing that command of I can't wait to taste your cum.
That'll do it.
Yeah, that's the thing. People talk about little things, little words, little triggers that literally just immediately you feel a guy just get hard. It's amazing. But
I should teach a dirty talk workshop as well. That took me a lot of time to not feel self-conscious about.
When I was 18, very briefly for a summer, I was a phone sex operator.
Oh my God!
Back in the day when you had to back in the day when we had landlines and stuff.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm so curious.
It was man. Again, like I said, I've done a lot of my life, and so
it's actually the next photo shoot I want to do for the podcast. It's an old school 80s phone sex.
Yes.
Okay. So specific tips though for blowjobs, tell me more about the hand-mouth coordination situation.
Hand-mouth
and maybe
coordination.
you could, you know, we've got a large microphone here.
It reminds me of Tyler's penis. He's got a nice penis. I won't touch it, but it is a lot of times women complain about their jaw or hurting or that, which is totally fair. Totally fair. Jaw sometimes.
Maybe that sounds like someone that doesn't like giving blowjobs.
Exactly. But that idea of using that hand as an extension of your mouth.
Yeah.
I
focus more on the top and then hands for the bottom part.
So that's a great way. I initially, the way to always, if you're feeling this is I'm dry mouth, make sure I always talk about sucking on a candy or something, or get a drink of water. But what's instantly going to create spit is you gagging on it. So I love telling people to really kind of start off a blowjob is to really kind of get a kind of gag and then create that lubrication, because then all of a sudden you've got the entire dick lubed up. And then the hand for me is using the hand and then the mouth, and focusing a lot of the top where it's most sensitive. With the mouth, with the tongue.
And you kind of suck in for suction. I feel like suction's important.
Yeah. I don't know why they call it a blowjob. It should be a suck job.
Yes.
It's a suck
job. Yes.
I think about this every time. And so, And so I love the wrist motion, because it's that. You're basically.
That's how a guy would jack off.
Yeah, exactly. You're recreating that. You're recreating maybe a pussy going up and down. Yeah. And then I think we talked about earlier this week, the tightness. Damn, some guys it very tight. And I think a lot of times people, when they get a dick in front of them, they're is this, am I going to hurt it? I'm a little scared. This is.
And that's where communication is. This pressure.
Communication.
More pressure.
Or, exactly. Or I love it, having the guy put his hand around my hand, squeezing and being that's the pressure
hot.
I like.
Yeah.
And I'm okay. And then we go to town. I always tell people you've got two hands. So let's use this other hand for something else. It's the bonus hand. The bonus hand. Whether, again, communication's key. Sometimes guys like a little anal play, a little touch of the
those
taste.
things.
Yeah, not with these things. But yeah, or like you were saying earlier, like cupping the balls, but every guy is different.
Yeah.
What
do you like?
What do you like?
Lately, because I really like giving blowjobs too. Lately, I've just been asking, like, as it's starting to go down in a sexy way, well, what are the things you like?
Yeah.
Again, all very willing to give instructions. And in general, people have very specific things that they like.
Exactly.
Like very specific, like kinks.
Very, like, I got a guy that wanted me to bite his peanut, like, use teeth. And I'm like, oh, this is what you want? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay. Yeah. Or like pulling really hard down on his balls. But I would say universally, it's wanting to get that lubrication, want to get that hand involved and making that constant motion of just and then also communicating with a guy like, do you want to get edged? Like, fucking, there's something so hot about edging a guy.
I just learned about milking.
Yeah, like it's so hot. And so, yeah, just figuring out what that person wants. But I would say for the most part, like obviously with the reviews and with me taking all those like survey responses where
See if there's anything we missed here.
There's some like very hilarious ones. But yeah, it's that idea. The hand and mouth combo is key. Sloppiness. You can't really go wrong.
So many best blowjobs I've ever had.
So many.
Really fascinating. I have no words. Yeah, and I mean, I just like the praise of, because I see this too, of like guys being like, I can usually never come from a blowjob. But I think that most guys could if there was communication. If they were like, I like this thing. Or like, I think in general, a lot of people are not gripping hard enough. And so it's like, there could just be a conversation. Maybe you could.
Yeah. You could.
Been from London.
It's a lot. I've changed all the guys' names in there. So all the guys' names are changed, but yeah, where they're from hasn't changed. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Well, to wrap up, what would you share with one of these sweet, innocent bachelorette Austin visitors that is sexual, kinky on the inside, but they're not sure how to explore that with their partner? Maybe it's been mostly vanilla.
Yeah.
What advice would you give them?
Oh man. I would say like kind of look into like the community, kind of like delving into maybe forums or things like this. Like I think that's where you find like people can really start expressing themselves. And like my community was Minx and Muse. And all of a sudden here I am able to talk about this sex, blowjobs and things like that. And you can just tell other people in the class were like, who are vanilla. And like, that was, it's a wide range. Like I show up in a thong lace bodysuit today.
Of course you do.
And then you have women come in there that are in like leggings, like,
oh yeah, I was
and
super
like
nervous
bras. Yeah. Like, which is totally fine. But it's so great to then be able to get yourself or find a community that you're like, okay, I have an interest in this. How can I explore this more? What are ways that I can then maybe communicate that with my partner?
Yeah.
Because I think it's one thing like, okay, like bringing it up with your partner and you being like, I don't know what this feeling is kind of thing. But having that more understanding of like, okay, like what does this mean about me? Like what do I like or what do I want to explore? And like getting that knowledge from other people in the community.
Totally.
So
and just going and looking into things that are sensual in their nature. So going to a pole class or a twerk class.
Exactly.
And not saying everybody there is going to want to talk about all that stuff, but, you know, finding ways to tap into your sensuality.
Yeah.
And I think that there's...
No. It's just like, exactly. It's just like that little barrier to entry of just like that little bit.
And also breaking through what I think is a fear of rejection with partners with bringing up a kink. I mean, when I would listen to Dan Savage's podcast, it was always calling in. Everyone would call in and be like, I don't know how to bring up to my partner ABC. It was all the calls. And he was like, talk about it. You know, like you're going to have just... tell them you like the thing, and if they're the right partner, they're not going anywhere.
Exactly. That's exactly what I have right now with Tyler, and it's just amazing to have that open communication with that no judgmental zone. Like, this is no judgmental zone. You can tell me what you like, and I can tell you what I like, and we can respect it. You can be like, I like that, or like, I don't like that. But
definitely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you
It's
very
been
much.
delightful. Thank you for dressing up for us.
You're welcome.
So here I have at Vanda the Panda on Instagram. I
Yes.
made this up myself because I'm your pimp now, but DM her if you want a private one-on-one
Yeah.
DJ session.
Yeah, let's do
Workshop?
it.
Workshop?
I've played with the idea of like working with couples. And,
Yeah,
like,
totally.
Bringing Tyler along and like doing a side by side. Like my dream
Yeah.
is to go to London and do one where it's like couples bringing bringing your partner and we do a live session.
Whoa, naughty.
Yeah.
So yes, Vanda the Panda on Instagram, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Thea, for having me.
Thank you so much for tuning into Sex Talk Radio. Be sure to give us a follow on TikTok and Instagram at Sex Talk Radio Podcast, spelled SEGGS Talk Radio Pod. I appreciate you, and I hope you found this conversation to be empowering and expansive.